Okay, we just got back from Summer Game Fest and a lovely dinner with some lovely, lovely content creators. That's why I'm waddling, because we're very full. Hi, Jacob. How are you?
I'm good.
We're very full and tired, but I want to talk to you all about Summer Game Fest and share with you some stories and tales of what we experienced, because it's been a long day, has it not?
It has been. It has. And then I'll zoom in there, but we'll cut this part out. Because I'm going to say a bad word. Get ready for it.
So the day opened pretty excitingly. We were awakened at 7 a.m. by the fire alarm going off. And I'm pretty sure it's because a guy was smoking a cigarette in the stairwell and it set off the fire alarm and evacuated the whole building because the police department came, and then he started sprinting away even though he's staying here, which was weird. And then the fire department was teasing everybody that looks like someone had a smoke this morning, and they were used to it. So that was a very aggressive way to start the morning. But beyond that, we walked through some of the city streets, got a feeling for this area of the fashion district in Los Angeles. That was pretty cool. Picked up our badges for the Summer Game Fest play days, whatever thing that's happening tomorrow. And then we took an Uber over to the venue, got a coffee, big old burrito, and kind of hung out until the show venue started to open up. Once we got there, we got in line, and there were two lines. The one line was for media and content creators and stuff. The other line was for what they called seat fillers. That sounds really dismissive and nasty, but that's what the staff called it. And apparently it's just people that fill in seats to make the audience look larger on camera when they do those reverse shots when the camera's on stage with Jeff there and then the crowd behind him, so it looks much more full. Because realistically, there's only a few hundred press and content creators that would ever actually fill in the theater. There's not thousands and thousands of devs and media and YouTubers and streamers showing up to this event. It's a couple hundred or a few hundred. And so they got to fill in the rest of the YouTube theater, a multi-thousand seat stadium basically, somehow. And they did that with those seat fillers. So again, nothing wrong with that, just an interesting kind of behind the scenes thing. A lot of those people you see in the audience are not actually professional content creators or media or developers. It's just people that are used to fill in the seats, which is just kind of a cool thing I never realized. There were some interesting characters in that crowd. The guy sitting, so there were two groups of people that drove me crazy through the whole event. So we were seated in this beautiful little spot. I posted a picture to Twitter of my spot. We had a great view. It was wonderful. But right in front of me, just the next row down to my right, was an individual I will call terminally online man. And then behind us were the Street Fighter fans. And they were both very, very unique individuals. The Street Fighter crew, the reason I call them that is because they were dead silent the entire show until they showed the little preview of Street Fighter. And then they did not shut up for the entire rest of the showcase. The whole time they were talking about I try to do drive reversal, and when I try to do, and they keep throwing out all this crap loud, audibly for the rest of the showcase. They were talking to each other. I guess they were friends, or maybe they just shared this in common. It was really weird and very disruptive. Beyond that, the guy in front of me was just a fascinating science experiment of a human being. Terminally online man. He was I don't know, he looked young, late teens, maybe early 20s. But this man was so aggressively terminally online. It was worrying. I am not kidding. And you're gonna think I'm exaggerating, but I swear to God I'm not. The entire 2-hour showcase, he had his phone out on his lap. And he has his phone out with Instagram Reels pulled up. And he's watching his own Instagram Reel on a loop with a headphone in his ear or something. Just looping it. And then it would auto scroll, and then he would just swipe back up or down or whatever to just replay it. And he's got it just on his lap like this. And he would go between watching the showcase and then watching himself on camera, and then swipe back to restart it, watch the showcase, and then go back to looking at himself. It was like worrying. It was like, bro, everybody out there needs to find somebody that loves them the way that this guy loved himself. It was wild. It was like, honestly, are you okay? And then, you intersperse that with the random reveal that he thinks he could get a TikTok or something made out of, and then he'd hold up his camera right up to his face and then do, wow, that's so crazy. I can't believe that was just unveiled out loud, while everybody's seeing it in the theater. It was like, maybe we shouldn't have let all of these people in, but regardless. It was fine. The showcase, it's not like we were missing a whole lot. Jeff Keighley had kind of talked people down a good amount, saying, hey, this maybe is not going to be the most jaw-dropping, we're not going to have one more game. We're going to have some reveals for already announced games. It's going to be solid, but don't expect anything like crazy or any wild bombs to drop. And that was about right. I think Jeff, didn't he call it like an 8 out of 10 show, I think, in the lead up?
I think so.
A lot of people, when he posted the poll on Twitter, they gave it like a D. And I think that might be a little aggressive. I'd give it like a C. It was not good. It was not bad. It was perfectly okay. They had some interesting stuff, like more looks at Phantom Blade Zero, which I think that looks really good. A cinematic trailer for Black Myth, Wukong. They had more Monster Hunter Wild stuff. They had the Horizon Lego game. They had some stuff, but they certainly did not have any big wow, holy crap announcements, because I think most of those are being held for the Xbox showcase on Sunday. But they had some stuff. They didn't have much, which I don't think should really shock anybody. They signaled it pretty heavily, but this is just the age-old problem with having so many shows in the span of like a week. Or in this case, over the course of a single weekend, which is just that Jeff is competing with Xbox and is competing with Ubisoft and is competing with EA and is competing with Sony, and all of these guys are trying to do their own thing. And at the end of the day, each company is going to do what's best for them. So Jeff might get like a Star Wars Outlaws little sneak peek trailer that hints at like Lando Calrissian being in the game, but then the full gameplay is going to be at the Ubisoft event, or you might get a little peek of this game over here, and then a full reveal will happen later. And that's kind of the best case scenario for something like SGF. I just don't think it's the format for any like huge announcements to come, which is fine. SGF is more about kickstarting that week of big announcements and giving media and press a chance to meet up and work on content about those games, which for people watching at home doesn't really matter, but for the media side of things, I think it maybe makes sense. After the showcase happened, we went to a happy hour. This was much more industry professionals. It's invite only. I took my wristband off, but we had like little black wristbands we got. You had to be on their media list, and then you got escorted up to the balcony that overlooked the city and everything. It was really, really beautiful. And this is where I met Sven, the legend. He was not wearing armor, but this is the guy that runs Larian, the team behind Baldur's Gate 3. And so that was super cool. All sorts of other creators and devs were up there. Most of pretty much everybody from the show, the actual presenters and content creators and stuff, they were all up there. Jeff stayed back. He only came out like the last 10 minutes or so to shake some hands and talk to people, but it was a good time. And as part of that, we also got to try Space Marine 2. We'll be doing a Luke Stevens Live segment and clip of that, where I'll share my thoughts on that, because I got to play probably like 40 minutes. It was a pretty good length demo. So I got my hands on that, and it was a really simple, good time. They poured Jacob like a 4-finger shot of, what was it, bourbon?
It was bourbon, yeah.
Yeah.
Poor me.
Yeah. Jacob went up to the bar, because it was all like open bar. It's just like, go ask for a drink. So it's like a margarita, and he pours me, a bunch of ice and the margarita. And Jacob's like, can I just get a neat bourbon? And this dude poured like a 3-4-finger shot of like a lot of bourbon. Jacob must have been flying all evening, but we did that, and then it was over, and we just kind of went along our merry way. And so there really wasn't a whole lot to say about it. I mean, the most kind of scandalous thing I encountered was that they made me throw away the tripod that I used with this camera because the security was so incompetent that they thought the little plastic 3-legged tripod I was using for this camera, they thought that that was professional grade equipment, and even though we were in the media line, we were not allowed to have that, so they made me throw it away into the trash. A brand new like $150 whatever camera joystick thing. They were like, you either throw it away or you're not allowed in. It's like, I flew here for this. So like, what, I asked them, can I hide it in the bush? Like, there's a bush over there. I was like, if I chuck this into the parking lot and then I go in and I go get the thing later, can I just do that? And they're like, no, we'd have to escort you from the premises if you try to put it in the landscaping or whatever. They're like, people have tried that before. So maybe the problem is the policy, if that's a consistent enough issue that we have to do that. But yeah, there was that. There was a poor Samsung guy, a guy that worked and was apparently a head honcho at Samsung. He was in the media line with us and was trying to get in with his satchel and like a clipboard and notebook. Like just that, like a very simple setup, and they wouldn't let him in. They're like, sorry, your bag is 15 inches long and it has to be only 14 inches or something. He's like, I got specific approval for this from Jeff. He's like, what is your name? What is your name? What is your name? I will call Jeff right now and we're going to take care of this and you will regret messing with me. It was like a little scary. That Samsung guy is, you don't want to mess with him. He knew what he wanted. He knew what he was allowed to have and do. So props to the guy for standing up for himself, because like the security guys didn't do anything wrong. They were just doing their job and what their bosses told them to do. It's the boss's fault for not knowing that the Samsung guy was allowed to have his notebook and his clipboard. Like, he wasn't going to hurt anybody with that. Or like this tripod thing, we followed the specific policies they gave us. The tripod was allowed. But the individual little like lower level security guard that was inspecting possessions at the gate, he didn't know about those rules, and so he made us throw it away, which is just dumb and just a bit of an oversight miscommunication. But that type of thing unfortunately happens at events like this. So it is what it is, woe is me. But all told, it was a fun experience, but certainly not something I think would be worth the average person like flying here to do. I'm hopeful that in some of the previews we do over the coming days, we get some more hands-on time with games. We get to talk to devs and find out more about them, because a lot of those devs, everybody that was at the show is still going to be here, and we're going to get the chance to interact with them. So I'm hopeful we can investigate these games a little bit more, but this showcase really just affirmed for me that I think most of the big stuff is going to be at the Xbox showcase. It was already shown. Somebody ran into Hidetaka Miyazaki at a hotel here in Los Angeles, so we know he's here. And the only other showcase that's happening is like Ubisoft, which of course they're not going to show anything Elden Ring DLC related, and then Xbox. And so it kind of has to be Xbox. Like, all eyes are on Xbox. And Aaron Greenberg, the head of marketing for Xbox, he was at SGF. He was at the happy hour thing we were just at. And so they're in town. They're ready to make moves. And if anything, seeing the lack of big splashes at SGF, that makes me really think that those splashes are being saved for Xbox. And Xbox did some shoulder rubbing to get those rights and those reveals. So all eyes are on them. But all told, a cool time. I'm still pissed about my tripod, though. Okay, so we just got back a little while ago from another fun day at Summer Game Fest. So I wanted to film this little addendum to the last video that we filmed and edited, and we're like, okay, this is ready to go. But part of Summer Game Fest is to actually meet other media creators, developers, and to socialize with them, and then play the games that we saw in the showcase, and then some that we didn't even see in the showcase. So I figured after today, which is Saturday, I would film this little tidbit and then share with you some of the ins and outs and behind the scenes stuff. It was a pretty crazy day. It started pretty chill, nothing that wild. We got to play a few different things. We got to play Stalker 2, got to play Replaced, got to see something I'm not allowed to talk about yet, got to try Phantom Blade Zero, which is pretty fantastic. And it was just a really cool day. Ran into the one and only Jake Baldino from Game Ranks, who is just a treasure, a gem. He's fantastic, just as wonderful as you would expect watching the videos. Super nice guy. And ran into a lot of other guys. I mean, Jeff Keighley's out there walking around, Jason Schreier's out there walking around. We ran into like Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, president of Xbox. Like all of those guys are here at the event just walking around. Like Phil Spencer's a gamer. He wants to see, you know, all of the games that everybody else is talking about. If he's interested in a game from Capcom, or if he's interested in a game from this studio or that studio, he'll show up, and you better believe they're going to find a spot for him in the venue so he can try it, and it's just kind of cool to see. So lots of really cool people. It's fascinating and great to shake hands and catch up with people we haven't seen in a while, and also meet some people for the first time, which is always just a treat. So that stuff was really cool. As for what specifically we got to play today, we got to play Stalker 2, Replaced, some other stuff I can't talk about, and Phantom Blade Zero. I have a separate video going up on Luke Stevens Live about Phantom Blade Zero with my thoughts there. All told, great game. Not at all what I thought it was, though. It looks in trailers like it's a Souls-like. Plays much more like a Devil May Cry. Much more combo-based and much less like action RPG. It's a lot easier than I thought it would be. We had to get through 3 bosses and a tutorial boss in the 30-minute session that we had, and I got through all of them in about 21 minutes and had like a third of the time left over. And that's even after the demo crashed and I restarted and redid the first 2 bosses. So the game was quite easy and very approachable. I got the hang of it real quick, but that's not a bad thing. It's approachable in a fun way. Like, it makes sense when you play it in a really, really good way. So go check out that dedicated video if you want to hear all my thoughts on that. Beyond that, Replaced is a beautiful game. It was revealed like 2 years ago. I want to say maybe like the Xbox Showcase or Game Awards 2022, I want to say. And so it's been kind of MIA for a while, but it is a beautiful game. It like gives me Disco Elysium world building vibes. It is fascinating and gorgeous, and it's one that I definitely will be keeping a very close eye on. So that one, probably the highlight of my day, in addition to Phantom Blade Zero. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff. And then beyond that, Stalker 2. Now, I had talked to some different creators about Stalker 2, some people who had tried it at previous shows last year and were not super thrilled about it. And honestly, like, to me, it just didn't click. It played like a fairly outdated first-person shooter. The demo setup was also a little clunky. It was screen tearing so much, it actually was pretty distracting. And even beyond that, the performance wasn't great, and there were a lot of moments where like the character would just drop dead and you weren't sure why they dropped dead, but it's like, well, there's probably some sort of environmental hazard or something that caused that, but you just don't really know what happened because it wasn't clearly communicated. And I heard that from a lot of other people as well who had tried it and were not that impressed with it. It seemed like it needed a good bit more work. So maybe they can pull that off as they put more time into it. I'm not sure, but it definitely was not where I thought it would be, to put it that way. But beyond that, I mean, Summer Game Fest is just an interesting thing. It's a chance for all of these industry guys to get together and, you know, talk and shake hands and collaborate, and that's awesome. And I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff going on behind the scenes that we're not even hearing about. There's an entire building that's set aside just for behind closed doors meetings, where I'm sure like it's Jeff and Phil talking about stuff, and then it's Phil and other publishers meeting up, and that stuff we'll never hear about. But I think that that's the point of Summer Game Fest. It is not really about the live show. The live show is kind of an excuse to get everybody together, but it's this stuff where the industry guys are getting together, where it's like where the most effort's put in, basically. You know, it's like after the live show, I was like, okay. And you probably see it in the first chunk of this video. It's like not a lot to go on, like maybe a little underwhelming. But after today, I get it. Like I understand what the purpose of this whole thing is, and I understand why so much effort has been put into it. And then you see, you know, the executives for Capcom walking around, or you see the head honchos from this studio or that studio, or Xbox is over there, and then, you know, you see some Nintendo guys over there. You know, that type of thing is what makes it all make sense. And it's been a wild experience to be here, and it's pretty surreal to just be playing a demo and then look over at the other couch and see another like YouTuber that you've watched for years, or to look over here and see the president of Xbox standing and shaking hands, and then you turn around and you see Phil Spencer chuckling at you dying in a game that you were trying to play. Like, it's just a weird, surreal experience where you're like, oh shoot, like this is all of those people gathered in one spot. Used to happen all the time with E3, and now this is really, I mean, I'm sure Gamescom it also happens, but other than that, certainly in the States, this and the Game Awards is really the only time that type of thing happens. And I know we all meme on Jeff Keighley, and we all like to joke about various things with Jeff, because it's video games. Like, we're all just having a good time, and it's not that serious. But one thing I think absolutely have to give him credit for is that he's worked his butt off to still, even in the wake of E3 collapsing in on itself like a dying star, he has worked his butt off to give the industry side of things that same experience and the chance to get together and collaborate. And it's at meetings like this where, you know, some crazy deals get pitched, where some crazy ideas get thrown out and sometimes pursued and doubled down on and greenlit. You know, there's stories of meetings in the like late 2000s where one developer might pitch something to a publisher at E3, and that turns into a hugely successful partnership for years and years to come. And it was something that just happened because they were at an event like this. And I think even if we tease Jeff for you know, not having a lot of great announcements or this or that, I do think he still deserves a good amount of credit for finding a way to bring the industry together. And in an age where it seems like we're seeing a resurgence of like console tribalism becoming all the more aggressive and people just freaking out about any little thing, it's nice to see people from all different areas of the industry coming together and just enjoying games and working together to try to further the industry. So I have a couple more days here. I have some other stuff I'm doing with like Ubisoft Forward and some of their reveals that we'll be able to talk about soon. So there's going to be plenty more content going up, plenty more videos. So make sure to subscribe, like the video, all of that. Thank you for making all of this a possibility. I mean, it's wild. It's been an incredible experience so far, and we're only going to have more videos going up. So yeah, subscribe and blah, blah, blah. Or don't. I'm not your dad. I can't tell if you do or don't. I just thank you for watching. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.